Good evening and welcome to another episode of the San Antonio Soccer Roundtable. We've got a special guest with us tonight, joining us to talk about the recent transition for Alamo City to San Antonio Surf. Rick Kuchka, thank you for joining us this evening.
Yeah, thanks for having me, guys.
Absolutely, absolutely. And Harry also with us. Rafa unable to join, so we look forward to when he is able to come back on. But got a lot of UPSL news that we want to get into with you, sir, and also get into some of the news that was recently announced as far as y'all's announcement about transitioning to a new partnership there with Surf. Why don't we start off? Can you tell us a little bit about that announcement and just some of the exciting news?
Yeah, so basically, they reached out to us over the summer. They're looking to open new affiliates. We're actually the 20th affiliate of Surf, and we did a video teleconference with our board, talked with them, got to kind of find out what they're looking to do and how maybe that could impact us or not impact us. It was a good conversation. We had some questions after that. We went back and forth a little bit, and then we got to the point where we thought it would be a good idea to kind of meet in person and get a feel for one another, make sure that um, basically everybody had the right interests and had the players in mind. So uh, Brian Angie, their CEO, and Chris Adams, their business development director, they came out in August and sat down with us. We went through everything, and at that point, it kind of gained some traction. And next thing you know, we worked through details and decided, if we're serious about doing what's best for the players and giving them more opportunities, this was something that could really make it happen quickly. Whereas being a local standalone club here in San Antonio, it would have taken some time. And some of the things that we're looking to do with Surf, we had actually explored ourselves with other partners, potentially in other areas like Austin. We do have a partner club in San Marcos called CTX Flash that they register through us, and so we can share players and compete in events together and do training events, bring our top players together, and kind of do some things with them. So this is kind of along the lines of that, but it opens up a lot of different opportunities, and it just seemed to make a lot of sense from the player standpoint and what we could bring to them. So I think in the long run, if parents like what we offer and what we're doing, that really doesn't have to change. We're just adding additional opportunities for them to take advantage of if they want to. So I think it's a good thing. I know they're exploring other markets in the area in the South Texas region. Potentially get some partner clubs that we can, do regional training events with, bring our players together, compete in events with those players. Kind of like an ODP type model in a way. But just give them more opportunities to train with high level, competition and stuff like that. And, maybe eventually DA and those types of things get opened up. But that was the biggest thing, just the opportunities. And then there's a lot of stuff that they do for the coaches, monthly calls, a lot of shared ideas. They've got a software program where everybody can share their sessions. We actually got set up with that this week, and the coaches are loving it. They go in there and they're looking at stuff that they're doing in San Diego, that they're doing in Utah, all over the place. And then we can actually upload stuff and they can see ours and we can talk and, share ideas and best practices, that kind of stuff. So there's a lot of different opportunities and advantages of doing it. And we just kind of felt, that it was going to be a good thing for the organization going forward.
Yeah.
Sad that the Alamo City brand is not there because it's something we've worked hard on and we really were proud of. And we, it does obviously represent the city. But I think overall, the opportunities for the players and stuff, that was the thing that led us down that path.
Yeah, and I'm just curious, kind of to that regard, as far as your coaches are concerned and everything too. One of the things that Rafa shared with us, just being a coach kind of more in an independent setting, are sometimes the difficulties like obtaining some of the different licenses and stuff like that to really take some of your coaching to the next level. Is there any help, in that regard for your coaches that maybe you weren't able to provide now that you guys have partnered up, just out of curiosity?
I guess that kind of remains to be seen. I know once you get, at least on the U.S. soccer pathway, once you get to your C license, getting that next level, going to that B license course, it's very hard to get into. Mm-hmm. And I'm not really sure what the requirement is. I know what the minimum requirements are, mm-hmm. but then how do they decide who gets in and who doesn't? I'm not sure. And that's not really been clear. So gotcha. If this helps that, that'd be great. Having the amateur teams on the women's and men's side and giving our coaches opportunities to do that, I think that will help. Obviously, if we did get DA here in San Antonio eventually, then, that would give our coaches opportunities to get into those licensing programs as well. But we also look, outside the U.S. soccer tree as well. United Soccer Coaches has courses. There's specialized things like TOVO. Some guys have, coaching licenses from Mexico, England, different things like that. So anything, and we do our internal coaching education as well. So we're always trying to learn and find different ways to do it. So even if we do get kind of stuck on one pathway, we'll still continue trying to learn and make ourselves better. So.
Gotcha. Yeah. And I know Harry was curious kind of about the branding side of things and talking just before the show, what was the response kind of from, the parents and those involved within the organization when they kind of heard the news?
I guess they were wondering if we were going to surf down the Riverwalk or how that was going to work because we're not near a beach. Some of the parents are familiar with it. We have a lot of military families in the city, so there's people that have been on the West Coast and they know surf and they understand the brand. Most don't. So it was, kind of educating them and showing them what it is and what it's about. I know I'd say the majority really like the Alamo City brand, but I think if this can provide, better things for their kids, then, they're for it. It is different, obviously, being in San Antonio, but it's a national brand. Mm-hmm. Like I said, there's 20 affiliates now, and they're growing nationwide. And I mean, their big thing is they're synonymous with the big events, the Surf Cup and Surf College Cup, and they bring in 500 plus coaches to these events.
And those have been going on for a long, long time. I mean, Surf Cup was a huge event back. I was an 86, so we don't need to get into it too much. But it's been big for a long time. Like you say, synonymous more with the national brand for sure in the circles that know, about surf.
And something actually that we're going to benefit from as well with this is we're going to rebrand our fall tournament as the Copa Surf. It's going to be a Surf Cup qualifier. There's going to be, I think, 3 age groups to start where we'll have qualifying brackets. So the teams that win those brackets will get automatic entry into Surf Cup. And Surf Cup is very, very hard to get into. I mean, they're turning away hundreds of teams for those events. So that's kind of a big deal. It's a way for teams in this area to potentially get, a spot in that event. Definitely helps out our event, providing that opportunity. So that was definitely a benefit as well.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Oh, go ahead. Sorry. But yeah, you mentioned the growth, for that here, because, when the news first announced, I found a Soccer Today article, that was March 11th. And at that time they said that they had, 12 affiliated programs. So, you can see that the growth that they're looking to do to go national. So it's awesome to see that with here in San Antonio. And as you mentioned here, in the surrounding area, would be really, really exciting to see it. Scott kind of stole my thunder with the rebranding question for that here. So, but from my understanding, as far as, because we do talk UPSL and stuff like that, as far as, that those teams will not rebrand until next year as well. And the only other question, I guess, is there is a El Paso Surf that plays in the UWS. do you anticipate, and whether you can say or not say at this point, you may not be able to say anything, but is that something that could be announcements coming down the road, or
as far as us going into UWS, or combining,
or just with another surf. I don't know if El Paso has a affiliate or if it's just the ladies team out there.
Yeah, they do have an affiliate.
Oh, they do have an affiliate. So, is there anything to possibly network within the state of Texas at all beyond just locally?
Aside from at this point, aside from maybe doing friendlies and sharing ideas and things like that, is obviously we're a big distance from El Paso, so it's kind of difficult as far as having a joint team or anything like that. So I think for right now we're just planning on staying in the leagues we're in, and just going ahead as San Antonio Surf. But
nice.
There's potential for all kinds of things now, so I won't say no one way or the other. But yeah.
Well, Rick, and I'm just kind of curious as well, moving forward now and everything. You mentioned that nothing will change for the UPSL branding or anything like that until next season. What changes, if any, do you expect this to make kind of as far as what you guys bring to the table in terms of, the future and what you want to bring to the UPSL?
I don't know if the brand actually changes anything. I mean, obviously we're hungry to put competitive teams out there. We want to provide these opportunities for, players that have graduated. Maybe they're in college. Well, on the women's side, it's easier with the college aspect of it because they're playing in the summer.
Right.
So if players come home, they can continue playing with those teams, and then they can go back to school. UPSL's on a different cycle, so now it's guys who maybe now they're done with college, they want to keep competing, maybe they're trying to get a trial somewhere, so we can be that opportunity for them. So I don't know if the brand so much impacts that. It's still day to day. We have to do, the right things on the ground. And honestly, that's with the youth program too. Mm-hmm. Regardless of the opportunities, regardless of the brand, if our guys on the field aren't taking care of business the way we're supposed to, if we're not developing players the right way, and if, we're not doing the things that we're going to do, then the brand doesn't mean anything. So, we have a responsibility to all the Alamo and future surf families, to make sure that we're providing the best possible experience for them out there, that our coaches, again, are continuing to learn and get better and, can transfer that onto the pitch for the players. So, it's a lot of stuff, in the future here that definitely will be big as long as we continue doing things the right way, on the ground floor. So
before we let you go, we do have to touch base on the men's action, in the UPSL. Central, you guys had a heck of a victory this past week after starting, with a close one against Coyotes FC, where you guys fell 2-1. I believe that was at home. And then you went on the road to play Bell County FC, and you guys walked away with a pretty convincing score at that point here. But you had two players that you highlighted, Roberto Del Toro and Braden Lennon. Each had 4 goals, 3 assists. What I thought was kind of interesting is one's a striker and one's a left back.
Yeah.
Can you tell the left back have gotten the player of the match? Is that what is that where we're going?
I think UPSL's actually looking at him for player of the week or whatever. So we got a message today. It's rare you see a left back, scoring 4 goals and having 3 assists. But and as far as Roberto, he's actually one of our youth coaches as well.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, so there's that tie there. The kids like to come out and yell at him and stuff on the field. But they both put up some amazing numbers, and I mean, as a whole, the whole team is pretty solid, and like I said, they're really hungry to kind of make an impact here, and their goal, they didn't come in just to play soccer, they want to win championships and stuff. So the first match, unfortunately, I mean, we did have some chances that we didn't finish. Could have been a different story, but that's the game of soccer. We'll get another shot at those guys. And then this one, the score line was a little odd to see, I'm sure, when it got posted on social media. But hats off to Bell County because they played hard, regardless.
And I want to highlight
So
that just real quickly because I know the initial reaction that you always get, and you saw it in the World Cup, not to go back to kicking a dead horse or beating a dead horse or whatever.
yeah.
With the result like that is, the sportsmanship angle of it. And, I'm just curious, what changes, what adjustments, because without seeing the game, I'm sure there were adjustments that you guys made there at halftime and things like that to try and help counter that a little bit in the spirit of sportsmanship without just totally, bailing completely offensively and passing backwards every time you get inside the 18. What changes did you guys make?
Basically, everybody that was on the roster that day got in the game and got their minutes. After a little while, they started taking out a bunch of the starters and putting in, some of the guys were on the bench and they played the rest of the game. So it's one of those things, and everybody's got an opinion on it. To me, if I'm on the other side of it, and I've been on the other side of that before, I feel kind of disrespected if teams are just messing about and, not giving it everything. I can accept, if you're better than me kind of deal. So, I think Peter, our head coach, I think he looked at it kind of the same way. And it's like, what, we're going to get these guys minutes, that might not have gotten minutes in the last game and get them some work. So he did that. But, they played the game.
And to be fair, I've reached out to Chris with Bell County, and we had some discussions, and he didn't think it was anything disrespectful or anything along those lines. He knew his, unfortunately, this is going to, his first year as well, and I think he knows it's going to be a learning experience for his team, and I know he mentioned that and he's already put out on social media, one game doesn't make a season. And I would expect Bell County as the season to progress. I know they're missing. I think their goaltender is what he was saying as well. So, it's an ugly result when you look at it on paper. But like I said here, at the UPSL level, and it's all about improvement from game one to whatever the last game is. And like I said here, that's what all of us hope for is. That Alamo City, the Runners, Coyotes, Bell County, the Corinthians, all the young players, show the growth and maturity, as the season progresses. So while you guys got it on this, this one here, hopefully, they'll be able to turn around and be a little bit more competitive, at least on the pitch here going forward.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, Coach, again, thank you for joining us and just kind of going over everything with us. We appreciate you coming on and everything, and look forward to following you guys for the UPSL season and for the women's as well, and just wish you the best of luck with the transition to San Antonio Surf and just kind of what that brings to the city of San Antonio as far as opportunities for some of these young players.
And if you do get an opportunity, I believe you guys are hosting the Corinthians this weekend, right? At 7:30 on Saturday. Is that correct?
That is correct, yes.
So another San Antonio derby between, Alamo City and the Corinthians. For that, who will be playing their second game, you'll be playing your third game. And I know the Corinthians are coming off of a loss to the Runners in the first game of the season here. So, if you do have the opportunity to go out and support, especially on the Northwest side, it's an awesome, experience to get out there. I do know they typically have a food truck, a beverage truck out there that does serve adult beverages. I know they got the pitch, behind the field or to the side of the field where, the kids can go out and play. So it's an awesome family thing. And, unlike the summer when the ladies are playing, hopefully the weather cools down, for the men to where, out there.
Yeah, agreed.
We're
I'm
babies.
not gonna lie,
We'll
I enjoyed my time, but
the women know that
it was
already.
warm.
Well, Coach, we look forward to talking to you again. For those of you guys watching, don't go anywhere. We've got some more UPSL soccer, college soccer, and San Antonio FC coming up shortly. Oh, so always good to talk soccer with some of the local experts here in San Antonio. Lots of fun and everything. And as you mentioned, Terry, one more time for the upcoming match there for Alamo City versus Corinthians on Saturday.
Yeah, Saturday at 7:30. At the Alamo City Soccer Complex over 1604 in Calabar area, Alamo Ranch area. But also just to kind of wrap up, and Danielle, who goes by at Toeswiggle on Twitter, as far as the move to the surf, and she's our, like to say, our resident women's soccer expert. And she said this is, per tweet here, this is significant for women's soccer. Talk about the channel exposure, increased opportunities, and this will raise the competition here. So, despite my little soreness about, losing the Alamo City, because I really like the branding of it, from somebody that's in the know, that's not affiliated with any of the programs, it sounds like this is a huge step up, especially for the area. And especially if they can bring in other affiliates, and I'm assuming probably in the South Texas area. I think that'll be great for for Alamo City and San Antonio Surf.
Absolutely, absolutely. Well, we want to get into a little bit more UPSL news before jumping into some of the college action here and bringing you guys all up to speed on that. So, Harry, I'm going to let you take it away. I know we talked about already the Alamo City 20-0 result and just kind of, some of the initial reaction from that. But what else is going on right now in our UPSL scene?
Yeah, really, that was the only match for us UPSL wise. However, big news from the team just north of Alamo City and with the San Antonio Runners. They went on the road in the Open Cup and came away with a 2-1 win over Coyotes FC. But more important, so they get the victory. But more important, in round 2, they're going to host Celtic Cowboy, I believe is what it is, from Austin. They unfortunately, I consider it an upset, pulled the upset over Central Texas Lobos on that same, I guess that was earlier in the day around noon when they played. So they'll have the opportunity to possibly advance to round 3, which then gets a little bit tougher because I think they face the winner of Inocentes. And where did that tweet go? Inocentes, and what's the other one that's always in the
Vaqueros?
Yeah, the Vaqueros. So, and I'm assuming if they could get past those 2 rounds, then you're talking about an opportunity possibly to play San Antonio if they get through. But of course, we'll have to see.
It's a long path. I think a lot of people are really excited, though, about the Inocentes. I know you tweeted that out, that you were really excited as well about a potential rematch there, even if they make it past Celtic, not to look too far ahead.
Yeah, not to look too far. But and it'll be interesting. We were going to have Mason on. Unfortunately, schedules didn't exactly line up at the last minute here. But we're going to try to see if we can either get a hold of him and put up a special episode of it, or maybe have it, do it early and then, air it next week here. But I do think it's something that we do need to broadcast because, Open Cup action, especially for the local teams, is great branding and exposure. And it's a heck of a win, especially over the Coyotes, which is a pretty, solid team, to be able to do it on the road.
Qualifying or Todd yell
yeah,
at you.
Open Cup qualifying, yes.
Yeah. Or else it's bad for branding when you call it an Open Cup match, because technically it's not a match yet. It's just like qualifying for the Open Cup. So.
Well, you say that, but the players are locked in. So.
Hey, it's a focus to them. This is their Open Cup run, and that's a great point. When you talked about Mason and some of the goals they had at the beginning of the season, this was a huge focus of theirs. So I'm sure, like to your point, if you talk to them, this is where it starts. This is the Open Cup run.
Well, it is.
For them.
I know they say qualifying, and I know it's not probably the proper, as you say. But if you play, if you're playing for the Runners and by chance you happen to get signed by San Antonio FC, you cannot play for San Antonio FC next year or any team besides the Runners. So. And when you go through the history, on the Open Cup, it has the qualifying right there. Now, Is it round one, round two, along those lines? No, but that's a separate discussion.
Absolutely. So we'll celebrate whatever we can here, as far as achievements and stuff like that goes. So excited to cheer them on for this run, since they are really the only local team kind of competing, at least this year, in the tournament. So nobody else really to root for as far as a dog in the fight goes in that one. But exciting news there for them. And yeah, to your point, kind of just an oversight on our part during the UPSL season. Obviously, we are lucky to have a guest with us this evening, but going to be easier probably to try and schedule those things earlier. So moving right along, though, into some college action then. Want to bring you guys all up to speed on that, as some of the conference play is either just beginning or fixing to begin. Taking a look kind of at St. Mary's there first. I know there was a little oversight on the post with their historic win over Midwestern State. It was the first time in school history, if memory serves me, not from me knowing this off the top of my head, but looking it up earlier in the week. I believe they were 31-1-0, so no wins in the history for the school against Midwestern State there in Wichita Falls. So huge win for them. Also, too, want to give a shout out. Jacob Saley, their goalkeeper, nominated to Goalie of the Week. And Kane Smith, their midfielder, nominated for Offensive Player of the Week. Scored the first goal in the last match that they had against Midwestern State. And he was a transfer here from Hawkeye Community College. So a new player there for St. Mary's, and his first goal. The insurance goal would come from Nenad Markovic. So they would win that one against Midwestern State University 2-0. Their next game will be against Texas A&M International, which you may be familiar with there, Harry, because that's where the Laredo Heat play all of their games. So kind of a little tie there as they kick off their Lone Star Conference on Thursday at 7 p.m. versus Texas A&M International. So who do you think Jose's rooting for in that one?
No, there's no question. Texas A&M International. It's from Laredo. Come on.
There might be one Laredo Heat player that his brother plays for. No, we're just kidding, Jose. We miss you. Come back on.
Yeah, we're I saw him at the game, and why can't he come over here too? Are we not as cool as SAFC or what?
Soon. That's like Todd's tweeting us now, so I know he's right there. They're coming back. So St. Mary's though right now 3-1-1 on the season so far, non-conference play, looking good. Kind of heading into the Lone Star Conference, but we'll see what they do against Texas A&M International. On the women's side, kind of the opposite record, 1-3. But having just won their game against Northwestern Oklahoma 2-1. So far again though, no conference play, just starting, so no alarm bells yet. But the game
they're actually 2-3. They beat Jose's team Texas A&M International 1-0 on September 11th, so down in Laredo. So, but they are 2-3. They're away 1-3, home 1-0, but yeah, they do open up on the road Thursday at San Angelo, or I guess not San Angelo, but Angelo State. They're in San Angelo for that here, so that'll be interesting. Then they'll turn around and play St. Edwards up in Austin for that here for that Thursday, Saturday doubleheader.
So that'll be a tough one to kind of kick off their conference play and everything. Moving along to our UIW, University of Incarnate Word, into the Southland Conference on the women's side, 2-6 kind of. We talked about that game that we saw them play against UTSA early in the season, and just some of the struggles, kind of a rebounding year, still a building year for that program under some new leadership. But had a 1-0 win here recently over Texas A&M Corpus Christi. Keely Alaya got a PK in overtime for a golden goal win. So it was her first goal, and a good win for them to open up play there in the Southland Conference.
Yeah, it looks like they've played mainly away here for the most part. At home, they're 2-1, but it looks like here they had a California trip, and then they played University of North Texas for that here here in town. But
Who's a tough.
it looks like here they played UH, Texas Southern away, and then an away trip to Cal State, Bakersfield, and California Baptist. So. It'll be interesting. They go on a road again this weekend, Friday, Sunday. Friday at Southeastern Louisiana and Hammond, and then Nicholls State on Sunday in Thibodaux, I believe is what it is. So their next home match will be Friday, October 4th. They have a father-daughter night against the University of Central Arkansas. And then October 6th, they're having barbecue at Benson against Northwestern State. So if you do get the opportunity, that's a noon kickoff for league play here, and the Fridays at 5. So should be an interesting couple of matches there. A couple of weeks here where you'll be out of town this week, but coming back, especially that Sunday. We know San Antonio does barbecue very well, so it'll be interesting to see how UIW does.
And moving right along to the UIW men's 3-3 on the year. We talked about that match against Oral Roberts, going to be one they had penciled on the calendar. 1-0 loss, unfortunately, in that. It was a non-conference game, though. However, Carlos Mercado, again, their goalie, 7 saves in the first half, doing everything he could to try and, get the win or at least the tie in that one, but unable to get the clean sheet. 1-0 loss to Oral Roberts. And they will open up the WAC play against Grand Canyon on Saturday at 9 p.m., who, looking at the table just kind of from non-conference play, appears to be one of the higher-seeded teams kind of heading into conference play. So this will be a tough first match of the season, it appears, there for the UIW on the men's side.
And then they come home, and on October 4th at 7, they'll play Air Force. And then on October 6th at 2, they play Utah Valley? Yeah, Utah Valley, UVU.
And Air Force is another game. I'm glad you mentioned that one. So definitely going to be one to circle for going out and seeing a game. That's got to be, to see Air Force, that's got to be a pretty exciting game.
And what it looks like here is that, we'd have to probably do some research on the scheduling here, but it looks like, they have double headers. So the women play at 5, the men play at 7. So you could catch a double header where, the University of Central Arkansas ladies versus UIW ladies, and then, catch the Air Force UIW men's, kicking off at 7.
Mm-hmm.
Both of them, and then on Sunday they have the duplicate with, 12-2 at Gale and Tom Benson Stadium. So if you have some opportunities, like I said, if you want to, spend a few hours supporting the local UIW team, like I said here, you'd have that opportunity to catch both the men's and women's. I'm assuming one, this is just me making an assumption, but I'm assuming one prize gets you into both. So, I doubt they're clearing the stadium in between games.
Yeah, and just to highlight kind of how good some of the soccer is, just within the Air Force in general, you have the Defenders Cup that's played here every year that we talk about, around Memorial Day or whatever. And a lot of those Air Force teams, they're from Air Force bases around the United States, and those guys can play. I mean, there's some guys that if they weren't in the military, you'd definitely see them in the UPSL, if not the USL. It's that level of talent. So I am really excited to see that game. But moving right along here with our college results, Trinity University going to be another exciting game on Friday, but currently sitting at 2-2-2. So had some mixed results to the start of this season for Trinity, but just recently had a 6-0 win over University of Dallas. So pretty good result to kind of get the troops motivated and everything. Just kind of a couple notables to mention. John Connor Rule would net the first goal in that game, which would be the game winner for his first goal in collegiate soccer. Also, too, scoring their first goals in collegiate for the season Michael Somerville, Michael Pham, Philip Dueñez, and Jared Olson. So shout out to those kids, all finding the back of the net in that game. So coach has to be excited about getting that kind of result as they get into some of their conference play.
Yeah, Trinity, like I said here, it's just looking at the schedule here. It looks like they had a rough weekend. The early part of September against Claremont and then Hardin Simmons. Up in Richardson, Texas. Here it looks like it for that here. They lost 3-1 in each one of those games. But outside of those, looks like here they've done fairly well. So it'll be interesting to see if that was just a bad weekend for that here, and to see if they can kind of rebound. This weekend here where they play Texas Lutheran on Friday, and then Southwestern Texas or Southwestern University, Texas here on the 29th. Those are 7 and 2 o'clock kickoffs.
Part of the issue for Trinity has been scoring. That the goals, that 6-0 result that they had recently, basically doubled their goal total for the year, having only scored 6 goals in their first 5 matches. And it was the most goals scored for the college since 2013. So, again, definitely a positive result there for them against University of Dallas. Going to be our game of the week for the San Antonio Soccer Roundtable this week, the Trinity matchup versus Texas Lutheran. For those of you that don't remember, aren't aware, goalkeeper for Texas Lutheran, Caleb Weed, has been getting some minutes now as a freshman. So I know I talked to him earlier in the week. He played for Warren last year, and he's really excited to come back to San Antonio and to be playing in San Antonio, having committed to Texas Lutheran. So this will definitely be a good test for Caleb, facing that offensive firepower that was able to put up 6 goals last week against University of Dallas. So we'll have to wait and see what happens Friday night, but I will be out there at 7 p.m. There at Trinity. So it should be a great game. But finally, kind of moving along to the UTSA women's side of thing, I know you had the last result kind of pulled up from Middle Tennessee that was a tough one for the Lady Runners. Why don't you walk us through the current UTSA women's standings and kind of what happened in that match there against Middle Tennessee?
Yeah, so it looks like here with the Middle Tennessee, it was a heartbreaker. There's no way to say it. It was just they were up 3-2, and then Middle Tennessee scored with about 30 seconds left in the match, and then in the first overtime in the 97th minute they got the winner. So unfortunately, UTSA, after a strong preseason schedule, took the first loss in Conference USA play. So they're now at 4-3-1 on the year. So I know I saw a video on Twitter from the UTSA head coach, and it's one of those hard ones. It's a learning experience, but a lot to be proud of by the Lady Runners for that here. But they get Rice next, who did start the season 1-0, 4-4. What'll be interesting is Rice does play Middle Tennessee away on Thursday, and then on, I think it's Sunday, that they'll come and play UTSA. So an opportunity for UTSA to climb back into this, as their season really kicks off on there for that here. So they'll get the Rice here, and then the next time they'll get is actually a rivalry match, in my opinion, where they played North Texas. North Texas beat the crap out of UTSA football this past weekend. So hopefully the Lady Runners soccer team can get some revenge on October 6th. But first is Rice. That's a huge match, and then if they can get the opportunity, they can get UNT as well here. So
and as
a lot of action.
Yep, conference play just kind of starting, so still very early as far as any tournaments are concerned and everything else. So Sunday at 1 p.m., take on Rice, who beat Charlotte 1-0 in their first conference game. So important matchup there for the Lady Runners. And I think that kind of sums up most of the college news.
Yeah, so we want to talk about the good news or the so it can't be. Yeah. So San Antonio FC on the road, they got a point, so that's positive.
Man down.
Man down. I kind of question the red card, but you put yourself in it. It's one of those where it wasn't. It could have went either way.
There were a lot of stupid tackles that game.
But unfortunately for San Antonio, with the draw, they have dropped out of the playoffs right now. They're 1 point behind El Paso, who also has a game, 2 points behind Los Dos and New Mexico, and now 5 points behind number 7 or 6-7, Real Monarchs and Austin Bold. So 2 big matches this week. One tomorrow night against Tulsa. In my opinion, a must-win.
Mm-hmm.
And then they come home and face probably one of the hotter teams going on right now in Fresno, who ended the streak of Phoenix Rising this past weekend. So I was listening to Foxtrot Pod earlier today, and they're filling their oats, thinking that the team's turned around, and it's they're talking 3-0, 3-1 victories. So they're expecting just to come in, and it'll be a competitive match, of course, but they're expecting to walk away with some points. And but I remember we used to own Tulsa, but I think the last 3 they've owned us with, I think, for that here, which knocked us out of the playoffs really last year. So does history repeat, Scott? That's the question.
Well, I had my analysis from some results, and not to get too far ahead, yet I do want to say that, I thought the game on Friday, first off, want to say thank you to I-10 Ice House for kind of having us out there and everything. They had the 5 TVs or 6 TVs over in the back corner. I thought that was a really cool spot to be able to just kind of have a whole area. Usually when we do these watch parties, unless it's like an official SAFC Twin Peaks event like what they're doing tomorrow, which we'll talk about in a minute, you don't usually have that much space kind of dedicated to you as fans. So shout out to everybody that came out there and watched the game on Friday. I thought they played with a lot of heart, but I think San Antonio FC continues to struggle with accurate passing out of the back, which is something that, if you're going to be a playoff contender, shouldn't be an issue. I mean, especially in a match like that where you're playing a man down and you're playing with as much energy and effort and heart as what they were playing with, and you go and give up an easy goal like that on a bonehead pass out of the back. And when you go back and look at the final 15 or 20 minutes of that game, and I bet if you went back and looked at, the final 15 minutes of every game, that's typically where you start to see us make lazy mistakes where we're just turning the ball over to the opposition and they're coming right back down our throats. And it reminds me of my Sunday league game, when everybody's gassed and nobody has the energy to keep playing. So, I mean, I hate to see that type of result in a game like that, because you know how hard they worked. And that's the type of goals that shouldn't happen. That's the type of mistakes that you eliminate in practice just with repetition and by having at least a talented enough roster to complete some passes out of the back, because I know that's been a struggle of ours, and it was a struggle this week.
What was your thoughts on Lopez being subbed out? I know he didn't like it in the 70th minute for that there. Prano got subbed out for Barnby, and who was the other one? Rafa got subbed out for Mo Hernandez, which, that was right after the Pekka red card.
Mm-hmm.
Second yellow. He got one in 49 and one in the second yellow in the 52nd, which was red. But
so the subs, the Lopez, I get his frustration with coming out. He's a competitor. He wants to stay in. I felt like the pieces that we were putting in were the pieces that we were putting in to get a win. Yeah, you can't argue the substitutions that Powell made with who he was throwing on the pitch. I felt like he should have pulled Gomez. Gomez has been so hot or cold this season. Mm-hmm. This game, he did not look like he was having one of his strong games, and he hasn't exactly had one of those seasons that inspires a whole lot of confidence where you feel like he's just going to turn it around. You know, it's like when he struggles, and that's it. And so I feel like if it was Barmby you were throwing in there, you know, maybe for Gomez or whatever, you know, I wouldn't have had as much issue with it. But I feel like, you know, that he should have maybe been the player that was pulled.
Yeah, I agree. I don't understand, you know, in a 1-1 game where each team needed the win. You know, the draw didn't help either one out. You know, where, you know, and it was, you know, Rafa's been calling for it. You've been calling it for it. You know, Toronto, you know, I was kind of surprised that he got pulled. Because I think he does have, does have that extra step, and unless there is a little bit of a nick that, you know, they're trying to watch his minutes.
Well, and he was getting shut down. I mean, and
yeah, he had an off day.
Well, they were quadruple teaming him. I mean, you know, it's tough when you got 4 or 5 guys hacking your ankles, and we've kind of talked about his style of play leads to that a little bit. You know, not to beat a dead horse, but you know, it just wasn't real effective. And that's where I feel like San Antonio FC struggles in their attack, and we'll get into kind of their consistency and that tweet and that breakdown and kind of my tinfoil hat theory on that here in just a minute. But consistency has been one of their biggest issues, and so when one piece of your attack isn't working like Pirano, you don't see some sort of, you know, makeup for that anywhere else, and it's like we just can't come up with anything.
The starters, we had Mo and Barmby that came back. Neither one started. They went with LaHood and Rafa. Did that surprise you?
Yes and no. You know, we talked about last week, it's 5 yellows and then 7 they miss again, so they really only have 2 that they can get. So if you're kind of, I mean, not that you're saving anybody at this point, you know, it's got to be kind of all hands on deck, which I thought we did. We didn't try and park the bus and play for a draw at all in this match with any subs or anything like that. Your starting 11, you can argue, you know, maybe who your best starting 11 is, but I don't think that that's anything out of the norm than what we've seen as far as LaHood playing that defensive mid.
I think the only one I question, you know, would be Rafa. I would rather have Rafa's leadership and free kick ability later in the game. You know, so if you're gonna, you know, and I understand it was probably a tactical switch to bring in Hernandez, you know, for that here, but I think I would have rather, you know, had Barmby, you know, start in that position. I think he's you know, and Rafa did good. Don't get me wrong, but I think Barmby brings a different.
Off, excuse me. I'm sorry, Harry. I was looking at the other screen. It threw me off.
So, but that would have been my only thing here. I'm hoping that you know with the 2 games that we get Mo and Barmby back in, because I do think that they are. Well, Peck is out, so you're going to have Mo in. You know, Mo is going to start automatically with probably LaHood as captain for that here. And then it would be the question: do you know still have Rafa start, or you bring it in Barmby, or you know along those lines, and it'll be interesting. You know, Tulsa has improved recently. They're still a bottom team, but they you know it seems like a lot of results coming out of Tulsa is a 2-1 match. So you know they'll probably get at least 1 goal. The question is, can they get that second goal? And you know, unfortunately, recent history says that San Antonio hasn't. But I got a feeling that that they've got to have it here. So
at least 2 for this one in order to get the win.
Yeah. So you've got it. If you don't get the win, you can't walk away with the tie. If you don't get the win, to me, I did a poll, and most everybody, I think, 7 people took it. Majority said, 4 points is what to expect from this week. I think you got to get 6. For that here, as we discussed earlier. It'll be interesting to kind of see. New Mexico United plays Phoenix this week here, so we got to hope for a little bit of help, from Phoenix, to knock down, and then the Bold play 4 on the road. So to me, the Bold are the ones that can fall down pretty easy because their road record is very questionable. But
here's the problem though for San Antonio FC, because you talk
here
about
you
it's a perfect segue. And before we get into it, I do want to acknowledge, because there's a good discussion going on the Facebook live chat right now. Rafa, who can't be with us tonight, answering for Guillermo Corona, who was asking why isn't Ever getting any playing time. Rafa's response, which I think everybody kind of feels, is he may be in the doghouse for something with Coach Powell. We keep going back to, or at least I know I do, that last game where we saw Ever score, I feel like it was, that we saw him celebrate with Coach Marcina, and that to me was just kind of odd. And since then, you haven't seen Ever get any minutes. And now with the addition of Frank Lopez and how well he's playing, I know our Rafa has talked about, unless they throw maybe 2 up top or something like that, which a lot of people would love to see, with another forward. We really haven't seen Ever Guzman, and I don't know if we're going to see him anytime soon. But one other comment I want to mention, Pekka as captain needs to be smarter, doing that to the team and resulting in us playing a man down. I'm curious, before I go into my tinfoil hat theory on why San Antonio FC won't make the playoffs this year, what do you think about Pekka, as far as being captain and reacting the way that he did that they got the red?
I didn't think it was that. I was surprised by the red card. I've seen other fouls that, especially for a second card, I've seen other fouls that get, you could have said, hey, this is your last warning, along those lines. Because the ref was pretty clear. He went straight. There was no discussion, and I think it caught Rafa off a little, or not Rafa, but Pekka off guard a little bit. But you can't put yourself in that position, though. That's the problem, especially right after committing one. And even still, I thought San Antonio was still the better team. So it's, whether it was on the pitch or not, I don't think it changes the results. Do you?
I think maybe it does. The way they gave up their bonehead goal, and as good as they played, to your point, even being a man down, they still played like the better team and still couldn't get the result that they needed. So to your point, I get where you're coming from. Maybe it doesn't result in 3 points having the 11th man there, because the way that the goal was scored, you still give that up and they still score in a transition, and so I don't know if it necessarily eliminates that. That's a great point. But moving along into kind of my cryptic tweet yesterday evening, as my eyes were hurting from double checking D's and W's and L's over and over again, because I didn't want to get anything wrong as far as my facts go. That's what we here at the San Antonio Soccer Roundtable are here for. I started thinking about Phoenix Rising and just kind of their historic season and everything with their 20 consecutive wins.
20. Have you ever won 20 things or 20 games or 20, even on your phone? Have you ever won 20 events in a row, even like FIFA or anything like that? I haven't. So, not that I'm the best, but
my senior year we were 27-0-2.
Oh,
so that's got to count for something, right?
Yeah.
But
so you're better than Rising, is what you're saying.
That was high school. Yeah, that wasn't USL. Excuse me. It's back in my day in 5A. No, but anyways, so Phoenix Rising, obvious win streak here to be celebrated. But I started thinking about San Antonio FC and just, typically you look back on a season and there was at least, 4 or 5 games where, maybe we had 3 wins and a couple draws, or 4 wins and a draw. But going back and looking at all the results, even if you want to factor in a non-league play like the Cardiff match or even their Open Cup game versus Laredo, we'll count that as a win and throw that in there. They still do not have a single winning streak all season long. So a winning streak meaning 3 wins, not a non-losing streak, because that's the closest that they've come twice here recently, with a win-draw-win and then a loss, and a win-draw-win and then 2 losses, which you guys will remember here recently. But so I did a little research here. Obviously, Phoenix Rising 20 games. Looking at Fresno, they've had 2 runs where they've gone on 6 and 7 win and draw streaks. Reno had a 5-game win streak in July. OCSC, now mind you, these are all teams that are at the top of the table where we wish we were right now, is on a 6-game win streak right now. Sacramento, who is the closest to what we are in terms of results, had 2 3-game win streaks. So I thought if you take San Antonio FC's results and give us 2 3-game win streaks instead of these win-draw wins and win-draw wins, it'd be like another 4 to 6 points, which is exactly where Sacramento sits ahead of us right now. Looking at Salt Lake City, they had a 6-game where they had 5 wins and a draw. The teams that don't have win streaks are teams like Los Dos, which are sitting, when you look at the table, exactly where we are, but a couple points ahead. So when you look at where San Antonio FC has been this season compared to where every team that's at the top of the table looking at the playoffs right now has been, the one thing we lack is any kind of consistency with win streaks.
We've only won 2 games in league play, or in league play, if you want to just go wins and losses, we've only won 2 games in a row 1 time.
And that's not even a streak. That's just back-to-back.
Back-to-back. So that's, I still go back and this will be a topic for another day. Tim Holt said last year results were unacceptable. There is no difference between last year and this year. The results they almost mirror each other. There's just no consistency, in the results, to where, it's, I had I forget who it was on Twitter that says, they play down to the teams on there. So, like Tacoma, Tacoma's getting rolled by everybody 5-0. Except by San Antonio, and we get rolled by them. For that here, and some of it may be just a matchup type situation. But we keep saying, hey, there's time. There's no time now. It's every year we start out, hey, it's okay. Drop a point here. They had a 3-game losing streak. We've had 2 3-game losing streaks. So, and one of them was Open Cup. For that here, involving Open Cup. But the only thing that San Antonio FC, unfortunately, right now is consistent at is inconsistency. That's the only thing.
The pattern. So that was kind of my little tidbit that I bring to the table with my research here. I don't know if Guillermo's calling me a show off or if he's calling Rafa a show off there on our Facebook chat.
I think it was probably calling you, with your 28-1 or no, 28-0-1 but that's
27-0-2.
That's that North Texas, soccer that you keep talking to us about.
North Texas, where they have UPSL 7-on-7 sanctioned.
Oh, I still got to check with those guys here. I did see, UPSL coming out with a Louisiana division now.
Nice.
Today. Guillermo posted, is there any correlation between the lineup inconsistency and the inconsistency of the result? I don't know if there is. It seems like the lineup, for the most part, has been fairly consistent.
But it has been inconsistent at times, and so that's where I kind of get back to, I know we've published an article, and I know Aaron Marvel published an article kind of about the road versus home. So you can look at it as inconsistencies within the lineup week to week have resulted in issues. Inconsistencies as home and away have resulted in issues for this team. I think the answer is kind of yes, all of the above, not having a consistent lineup, not playing consistently to the level of the team that you're playing, to your point earlier, and not playing consistently when you're on the road to the level that you're playing at home. It's all
that's the thing that bothers me, because at home, I think they're a top 14. At home, they're a top 14.
Was it not?
Pardon me?
Tacoma was at home, was it not? Off the top of my head.
No, they beat them
on
at
the
home.
road. Okay,
that was on the road where they got shellacked.
Forgive me.
I think the biggest one here, I want to say
RGV?
OC, I think. No, RGV they tied because they were up 2-0 and they let them come back in that in our house for that here. But
we digress.
To me, the it's just I don't know what the difference is. I don't know what the fix is. It's one of those. I've kind of come to the point. If we make the playoffs, and it's a if it's a play-in game, I think it's 50-50 if we get beyond that. There's some teams that I like our matchups with if we do get in the playoffs. But the problem is the team has shown that they're not capable, or history has shown that they're not capable of putting any games together to build on.
Mm-hmm.
And that, to me, that goes back to coaching. If you're not building, week to week to week, because you'll have a good result, and then the next week they look like crap. It's and I don't. The players aren't changing. The coaches aren't changing. It's got to be one of the two. And I like to believe that the players are putting in quality efforts and stuff like that. I know there's been some issues with it. We've talked about, hey, was it a locker room issue?
Mm-hmm.
But there's only there's two people that are in charge of it, and that's Mr. Holt and Coach Powell.
Mm-hmm.
And the Bucks got to stop somewhere. This is year 4.
Mm-hmm.
By this time, the Scorpions had won a title. Now they had a couple of shit years as well. Don't get me wrong, but
we're back to win or go home, which is the exact same boat we were in last year at this time.
It's the same exact thing, and just like last year, they went on a road trip. Now the good thing here is, basically 3 out of the next 4, and we only have 5 matches. So they left. But three of them are on the road. The Tulsa one here, they come home, play a tough Fresno team.
Right.
Then they go on the road to Portland, which is struggling, and Vegas, which is struggling. Both of those are winnable games. But both of them you could walk away with no points with, if they play to their level.
Mm-hmm.
If they play to the level that we know that this team can play, they could string together some stuff. And then their last game's against Colorado Springs, which – I know Colorado Springs, hired Koch from Cincinnati this week here. So I don't know if he's starting this year or if he'll be on when next season starts. But you got to figure they got the last 3 points. I think in order to make the playoffs, they've got to get 9-10 points. And to me, in order to do that, you've got to get the 6 points this week, because the problem is if you don't get the points now, and then if on the Northwest
yourself,
you're going to eliminate yourself to where, hey, even if you get points, you got too many teams to jump.
Yeah, absolutely, based on results. So it's no guarantee at this point, not to, no pun intended. But I know we are kind of running against the clock here and everything. So let's get into our final thoughts for this episode. Before tomorrow night's matchup.
So, final thoughts. SAFC put out a watch party notification at the Twin Peaks at Desavala tomorrow night. So I think I'm planning on trying to go for that here. And then Saturday, they've got was it Hispanic night?
Mm-hmm. Hispanic Heritage
for that
night.
Here. Pardon me?
Hispanic Heritage Night.
So they got the scarf for it here. I suckered in and got one because the kids' soccer camp, the kids' soccer team's going, and they're going to be sitting in a different section. So I'm going to make sure if they wanted to sit with their team that they could have that. And I was like, all right, just I'll get the scarf.
So you tell me you got a ticket for the game? Is that what I'm hearing?
Yeah, I got 5 tickets for.
Harry's got extra tickets, so we might be doing a giveaway if you. Hey, we just hit 600 followers on our Twitter page.
Sorry, we could give away 2. I got X bonus tickets. We could give 2 tickets away if you wanted. So
we'll talk offline.
That might be something that we set up.
Yep. Well, awesome, man. Sorry, I didn't mean to. So the Hispanic Heritage Night for Saturday. Yeah, I know. I stole your spotlight with our 600 followers on Twitter. I guess I should have saved that for my own final thoughts. But no, I just again want to reiterate Friday night, if you're not doing anything, the Trinity soccer game versus Texas Lutheran University out there at Trinity. If you still haven't been to a game there at Trinity, that facility is amazing. Just the grass that they play on, the setup of it and everything. They have concession stands set up out there and all that good stuff. Should be one heck of a game. Like I say, I'm excited to see Caleb Weed in his freshman year. It's always good to see some of the local San Antonio high school kids getting minutes as freshmen now, after they've committed and playing at the next level. So Friday night again at Trinity University, 7 p.m. We'll see you out there, our game of the week. And as always with San Antonio FC, man, like you say, Harry, it's win or go home from this point on again for San Antonio FC. So this is the San Antonio Soccer Roundtable. What's life without goals? We out.